Good evening and welcome to The Strand. I'm Christina Foxley, the Director of Events, and I'm so pleased to welcome Lisa Kereszi, the Acting Director of Undergraduate Studies in Photography at Yale University, here tonight to show images from her new book, Fun and Games. Lisa's work is in many private and public collections, including the Whitney Museum of American Art, the MoMA Study Collection, the Altoids Curiously Strong Collection of the New Museum of Contemporary Art, and the Yale University Art Gallery, to name just a few. She is represented by Yancey Richardson Gallery here in New York, where she has had solo shows in 2005, 2006, and 2009. Lisa's editorial work has appeared in books and magazines, including the New York Times Magazine, The New Yorker, New York, Harper's, W, Details, GQ, Newsweek, Penthouse, Nylon, and Wallpaper, among many others. Fun and Games is Lisa's third monograph. Following her presentation, Lisa would be happy to take your questions. I'll be walking around with the wireless microphone, so please wait for that before you speak. And then Lisa will sign copies of her book for you, which you can purchase downstairs on your way out of the store. Please join me in welcoming Lisa Kereszi to The Strand.
Thanks, Christina. Ooh, loud. And thanks, everybody, for coming. Some familiar faces, some new faces. I'm just going to dive right in and talk over the pictures. So I hate the phrase fine art photographer, but let's use it. I also happen to do editorial work and teach, but the core of what I am all about, what I want to do, is go out into the world and find sort of a visual poetry, is one way to say it. Looking for things in the world that are sort of ready-mades, things that I can transform through, my framing, my choices, into some kind of poetry, into some kind of metaphor. And this book, Fun and Games, is basically what I'm going to show you in the slides. So you can follow along if you want, and you can catch me if I've made any mistakes. So the idea behind this book is there's a clue at the very end when I have the definition of the word escapism, and I'll just read it for you. Escapism, an inclination to retreat from unpleasant realities through diversion or fantasy. And then it goes on, romantic novels were her escape from the stress of daily life, or his alcohol problem was a form of escapism. And one thing that I found when I looked into the origins of this word is that it came to be in 1933 during the Depression, which I think is pretty important. This body of work is not directly related to the times that we're finding ourselves in, the economic climate we're finding ourselves in. It's a bit of coincidence or luck. I don't think it was me being prescient exactly. But the book getting published in 2009, getting finished in 2008, and then being published in 2009, right when we're in the midst of all of this, I think is a good thing. And I think that, let's see, where was I going with that? Sorry. Let me go back and tell you where this body of work came from, because, like I said, I obviously didn't just make all these pictures in the last couple of years. I suppose I could have if I was really, really busy. The body of work that you're looking at that became Fun and Games started in 1999. I've been taking pictures since college, which is like about 1991. I'm 36 now. But actually, this picture you're looking at right now is almost the oldest picture in the book. This is 99, so 10 years ago. And it came out of work I was doing in graduate school, where I was doing a project that I said it was about nocturnal photographs. It was about the night. And it started out in the summer and fall making pictures like this. This is Las Vegas at night, taken with a 4x5 view camera. Most of my pictures are 6x7 medium format, but this is one of the large format ones. So I started out going out and photographing at night, and I do think it did have a direct correlation to anxiety or fear or challenging, a fear of the dark. As well as trying to look at the world through a different light than we usually do, to help sort of amplify a surrealist sort of vision, much like the photographer Kereszi did in the 1920s. But of course, in New England in the winter, it gets cold at night, very cold in the winter. So I started moving inside to take pictures. And what I'm saying is not really correlating with all of the pictures, so you're just going to have to bear with me. The pictures are not chronological. Like, for example, the picture you're looking at right now from the Jersey Shore, this was probably 2006. But anyway, so I moved inside, and I was photographing nocturnal sorts of places, but during the day, because nocturnal places like bars, nightclubs, strip clubs, movie theaters, motels, etc., tend to be full at night when they're supposed to be. And it's very hard to get access to photograph them, or even really to be able to move around in the spaces when they're full of people. So it was a practical thing, but also kind of turned into an aesthetic thing, where I was photographing these places during the day. So places that are designed for escapism, designed for fantasy, but under the beer light, is when the fantasy works. Not under the light of day when the door is thrown open. There's a kind of a nasty beer smell mixed with the mop smell, which is something I got very used to as a photographer going into these places. So I was thrust sort of inside, and actually that's where the work really took off, where I was photographing the kinds of places that I mentioned to you. But with this daylight coming in, so that, like, here's a good example. With this daylight coming in, so that the fantasy that's created by these sometimes transient structures, like a haunted house, like carnivals, the fantasy fails in a way, because you're looking at it under not the right kind of light that they want you to, and you're also, if you're looking at my pictures, I'm forcing you to study details that would otherwise go unnoticed. You're not supposed to notice the popcorn and the jujube on the floor because of this dazzling, 1970s era carpet in a movie theater. And it's worth noting that this movie theater is now gone. And I'm finding that to be the case with a lot of the places I photograph. That in addition to this interest of mine in fantasy and escape and an inclination, for us to do that, I'm also finding that I am recording places that are disappearing. And I'm very interested, obviously, in the past, because I think most of these places I'm photographing, there's sort of a kind of a shoddiness and a worn outness to the physical surfaces, from time. And there's also, sort of an outdated interior design. And a lot of my places, because there are no people in them, they feel abandoned. And that is true of some of the places that they are abandoned, as in not open anymore. But I think it's just relevant in that a lot of the places just don't exist anymore, and that's one thing I love about photography, is because that you can save something, and I think that has a lot to do with why I'm a photographer. I have this sort of I'm an obsessive collector, and you can